What is up, guys? Dan here. Today we have a gym equipment review on an adjustable bench, the GetRx FIDAB-101 flat/incline bench, which is, I hate these names that the bench people use. They just, I don't know. Not a fan. Just sounds like I'm talking to a robot. Anyway, full disclosure. I was going to buy this bench because I couldn't find any reviews on it, and it seemed like a really good fit for what I was looking for, so I reached out to GetRx and said, hey, do you have an affiliate link I can use? Because we're going to buy this thing. I want to at least try to make like 10 cents on the back end to cover a little bit of my expenses. And full disclosure, they said, hey, we will send it to you. What is your YouTube channel? And they checked it out and they said, cool. So hey, if you buy it and you post a review, we will shoot the money back onto your credit card. So I said, man, that's a great deal. I'd love to do that. So full disclosure, this bench is going to cost me $0, yay. But I am going to review it honestly. I think what it most compares to is the Rep 4100, and that is my daily driver bench in my home gym. It's a very solid adjustable bench. But I was kind of looking at, oh, it'd be cool to have these attachments. And the only thing I could find was these really expensive benches with attachments. And then I stumbled on to GetRx through some of those reviews, and I could find a ton of reviews on their top tier $500 bench. But it has kind of like the wider foot on the front. I tuck my feet pretty big on bench press. So I was like, I don't really want to do that. And I also didn't want to go below the price tier of my Rep 4100. So I couldn't look at the $300-ish ones that are great, that let you use attachments that they have at GetRx. But I couldn't find any reviews on that mid-tier, that 4100 level, that solid mid-tier pro level adjustable bench. Could not find it, so that's why I went and got a hold of this guy. And let me tell you, right off the bat, you can just skip the rest of the video. This is a great bench. There's definitely a couple things I like a little better with some other benches, but this bench is awesome and suits my needs very well. So let's go from there. The first thing I want to touch on is the pad itself is very stiff. That's one of the things I saw in the reviews of their bigger bench, their more expensive bench, is that the pad is stiff. So if you like a very, very stiff pad, congratulations, you have that, and it's going to be awesome for you. If you do not like a very stiff pad, if you're used to the rep benches, this is going to feel very different to you. So if you are a lighter person not benching a lot of weight, it might just feel like you're laying on a board. For me, I press pretty big weight. I'm a pretty heavy guy. I like the extra stiffness. Plus, a lot of these benches that have like the attachments, you can flip this around and do Nordic curls on it. So one of the problems with Nordic curls is it's a ton of pressure on the pad with your knees, and when you stand back up, you can see like you're breaking down that foam really well. On this, you cannot see that your knees were there. It is a much stiffer, much more dense pad, and as a result, you're going to have considerable more years of use on that pad compared to other ones. That being said, if it's a home gym and it's just you rocking in the gym, it's probably going to last forever anyway, regardless of what pad you get, just because you're one person working out. But if you have a gym, like maybe you have a CrossFit gym and you actually bench at your CrossFit gym, and you want to have some adaptability and some adjustability, this bench for commercial use, the pad's going to hold up really well. And you'll see at a lot of commercial gyms, their hammer strength benches, the pads are very stiff, and that's specifically why it's so that they can withstand the abuse of a ton of people using it day in, day out, all day, every day, without having to replace the pad every 6 months. So, very durable, very stiff pad. 10 out of 10 on the pad, in my opinion, but I like a stiffer pad. Let's talk about the grip. So the grip on the pad is nice as well. Very, I would say extremely comparable to the rep benches. Maybe just a touch slicker, but man, I haven't had any issue with it. I've been using it here for a couple weeks pretty consistently. So stiff pad, good grip, love it. Weight-wise, it is 82 pounds, so it's just right around the same plate as most of its competitors. But light enough that it is not hard to lift and wheel around compared to some of the bigger boys like the Batwing and their larger bench that name escapes me at the moment, that are over 100 pounds. Those 130 pound ones kill me. I'd much rather have an 80 to 90 pound adjustable bench to move around. It is sturdy enough to do anything you're going to do on it without any issue whatsoever. Construction wise, it's 7 and 14 gauge steel. So definitely solid, can definitely put up with whatever you're going to throw at it. I will say some of the finishes on the bottom don't look quite as clean compared to the rep benches with their laser cut numbers and things. That being said, this has a ton of adjustability to it. It's got eight adjustments that goes from 0 to 85 degrees. The pad gap is 1.8 inches, which anything under 2 inches is small enough to like typically not bug people. But the pad itself is long enough. I find myself doing most of my benching just on the long pad anyway, which is something that people have parroted quite a bit on some of the more expensive benches that run just a little longer. But you can get away with it on here, and I'm sitting here right at 6 foot, and it works pretty good for me. Maybe I have a short torso. Things that I love about this bench. So I love that mid-tier, that $400 price point, and this is a $400 bench. It's free shipping, but they do add some tax on there. Forget the exact number what it was to my door, but you're looking basically exactly comparable to the Rep 4100, which is the main competitor to this bench. But here's where this bench starts to kick everyone's ass. Attachments. So there are there's 2 attachments you can get for this at this point. I'll move it up here so you can see. This is the decline attachment. So you can now decline bench, decline sit-ups. The one caveat I will say is I don't decline bench ever. I just do dips if I'm going to do a decline type movement. But I would imagine the pad below would get in the way of your head and could make it a little funky because there's no way for the pad to dip below parallel to the ground. It stops just flat. So that can be an issue, especially if you're a taller lifter. On the sit-ups, for decline sit-ups, which is the main thing that I use the decline attachment for, that and Nordic curls, it isn't a big deal because you're kind of curled up anyway. So if you don't get to fully extend your neck at the bottom of your sit-up, who cares? But the biggest thing, the most helpful thing I use this for is you flip it around, which is nice and easy. Nordic curls. So you can flip this down and do some Nordic curls. And again, like I said earlier, the pad is so stiff that it's not going to leave knee prints when you're done with your Nordic curls, which I think is a huge advantage to a stiffer, denser pad on top. And that is awesome. So, let me get this out of the way. I'm going to drop some B-roll in here as we go, talking about some of the things. So I've said a lot of great things about this bench. There are a couple things that I think just could add a little touch. And for me, between this and the Rep 41, AB 4100, it's a no-brainer. I would pick this every time. I like that the undercarriage is big and chunky. It looks more impressive and more just to me. I love that it has the ability to add attachments. The AB 4100 does not. I think that's a huge advantage. I love the stiff pad. I think the stiff pad is a huge advantage. If you don't like a stiff pad, it's whatever. I don't think the gap is big enough to make an issue. I think you get a little smaller gap with the 4100, but this gap is totally fine. I've never been someone where the gap really bugs me. If the gap really bugs you, really the only game in town for you is going to be the Rep 0 gap, and that's just kind of, it's a very cool system. It's a little clunky system in my mind. Now, where I have some reservations on this bench. Some of the touches. So underneath, you will see in the video here, it just looks, kind of basic, I guess. It doesn't have rubber protecting the paint like the rubber feet that you see with the rep benches. It is kind of like a smooth chrome coated thing. It looks nice, but I'm curious to see if it's going to bang things up a little bit because it's metal on metal contact. The second thing that I personally like is kind of the laser cutting with the actual numbers in them for the different angles. I just think it's a nice touch, and I think at a $400 price point you could do that. The last thing I will say, and this pains me a little bit because I love doing chest supported dumbbell rows. Like it's one of my primary horizontal pulling things that I do. The dumbbell caddies, the way I like to do my dumbbell chest supported rows, do not work ideally. They sit a little too far in front, and there's some weird clearance issues specific to my adjustable dumbbells because I use the weighted out 10-pound plates that are a little wider, a little bigger diameter, so it's a little bit of a pain to pull it out and be sitting where you want to be on the bench. Now, if you just put your chest on the bench and you're standing and you get a little more directly over the dumbbells, it works great, but I just don't like doing my seated dumbbell work that way. I like sitting and having a rest on my butt. Now I have long enough arms, it's not a big deal. I can just pick from the floor. But for some of you that have shorter arms and like to sit all the way down on the seat when you're doing your chest supported dumbbell rows, that may be a slight issue for you. So maybe just don't buy those dumbbell holsters on there. It's a very cool idea. I love the concept. But for me, I just feel like if there was a way to move them back 4 inches, it would be so good. Or maybe make the whole thing just a touch shorter to make it a little more convenient. That being said, this may be a specific to how I'm built thing. So depending on how you're built, you may sit on the bench different and it may not be an issue. But for me, it was a little bit of an annoying issue, so I probably won't be using the dumbbell caddies much. But I will be using the crap out of the decline attachment. Now, let's talk about pricing. So we said the bench many times is $400 plus tax. The attachments are going to be very comparable to where you'd see other places. The decline attachment is $110, so identical to reps. And honestly, I've had them both, and it feels like the same exact piece of equipment. It's quality heavy gauge steel, very stiff foam padding, and it's going to last a long time. I do think it sits in there and gets hooked in a little better than the rep benches that I've used in the past, but you're looking at $110 for that. The dumbbell caddies, they are $46 plus tax, which is a good deal for an attachment. I don't know how they can fix it because it sits on the uprights of the feet, and so you can't scoot it back any. But man, if there was a way to adjust it so that it could be further up or further back, I think that attachment at that price point is a great price point. No one's gonna, if you're buying a $400 bench, you're not gonna blink an eye at a $45 attachment. But man, if there was a way to make it so it was either adjustable forward and back, maybe they added a couple more bolt holes so you had some options on how far back to put it, I feel like that could solve the problem and not raise the cost a ton. But all in all, is this a rep 4100 adjustable bench killer? Hell yeah it is. This bench is awesome. I am probably going to sell my rep adjustable bench. And that hurts me to say because I love that bench. But this is just so much more versatile. It's got a lot more going on. I like the pad, it's stiffer. It's the same dang price point. I love that I have the decline attachments. Now, if only there was a way to kind of adjust these dumbbell stands, now we'd really be talking. So all in all, as I have it built, you're looking at right about a $600 build after taxes. It was under $600, it was like $583 or something like that. So now you're at the price point where you're competing with the big boys. Does it measure up to that? Yeah, because it's going to be probably about $100 cheaper. But you are touching into big territory, and that's a conversation you have to think about yourself. But if you are getting the biggest, baddest adjustable decline incline bench from these companies, we're excluding Rogue because their shit's like $1,200. But if you're looking at the Rep Big Dog or this one's Big Dog, you're still going to be about $100 less than them. Especially more than that if you don't use the dumbbell caddies. So that is my take on this. You can check the affiliate links to get this below in the description. Highly recommend this bench. It's going to be my daily driver for a long ass time. So subscribe, like, comment. Let me know what you guys think. What other benches are you guys into? What kind of things do you want to hear more about? Let me know. And I hope I rambled just enough for you to click that subscribe button. Talk soon.